Well, g'day guys, and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Scotland, and once again welcome back to Ardnamurchan. And today it's all about wandering in the woods with not much light and probably some rain and increasing winds. So yeah, fun times. Now I have brought myself up to Arundel. Again, massive apologies for the complete butcherization. I mean, I'm butchering the word butcher. Butcherization of Arundel if it isn't pronounced like that. But this is quite a popular ancient oak wood here in Ardnamurchan. And even though the light is pretty much non-existent, I just had to come in and have a bit of a play. As I've said, or as I said at the restart of this kind of YouTube journey, it's actually a reset of my photography journey as well. And so even though the light is going to be lacking and things like that, it's always good to be out practicing a little bit, especially in chaotic scenes, chaotic locations such as this place. So yeah, we'll go for a wander. We'll see what we can find and try not to get too wet, because yeah, I'm pretty sure at some point the rain's coming. So just making my way along the path, and I have photographed this little stand of trees before, and I just love their gnarliness, especially set against the more pristine pine in the background. And of course lost all of their leaves, but there's still a nice sort of golden understory going on there as well. But yeah, I always, every time I walk past here, I always make a little image, just a little nod. Maybe we'll wander on a little bit and see whether we can get a better vantage point. But yeah, it's good to be back. So apologies for the noise, standing beside a little brook. So first image lined up, well, first considered image lined up, shooting it in a 16:9 format. And again, it's really just a nod to the chaotic nature of this place. Absolutely zero light to speak of. But of course we have quite a nice little sort of snaking bit of the brook winding through those absolutely gnarly as anything trees. A couple of little sort of tufts of grass that have still maintained a bit of that autumnal sort of yellowy colour. Making sure that's not including any of the sky in there. And then of course you do have that backdrop of those pines, various shades as well, whether too much of that is actually coming through. I mean, what would actually be really nice is if, not that it's going to happen, but we had some sort of direct light on these front trees as well, just a little bit of, just to raise it up a little bit, maybe to give a little bit of separation. Polarizer on slightly, mainly just to take off some of the reflections off the little brook. But yeah, started for 10. Also, what looked to have been a wolf just walked past me as well, scared the bejeebies out of me. But it was the beast of Bodmin, or the beast of, where am I? Somewhere. Anyway, I'll throw this image up and we'll wander on. Once again, given the fact that we don't have any light to speak of, looking more at the smaller details, and of course, given the fact that this is an old ancient Atlantic oak wood, it's not surprising that the moss and the lichen is really taking over a lot of the trees and a lot of the rocks. And so this is a little nod to that. Not completely filling the frame with the moss and not completely filling the frame with the bark. That sort of slow creep up actually reminds me of an image that I took out in Finland, which I still go back to with a smile. Slightly better conditions, certainly better light anyway. But one of the things I like about detail shots like this and shooting on the GFX is you really do get to see some of those details coming through, especially if the image was printed. So yeah, just nothing too dramatic about it. I put on a polarizer, and again, just to give a little bit of extra protection from the sheen, which helps bring out some of those extra details in that moss and in the lichen, and even in the bark as well. But yeah, vertical composition, F something or other. Nice little detailed nod to the Atlantic oak woods. Beautiful. Right, show this up and we'll wander on. Wow. However, I have absolutely no idea how I would photograph this. I think the gnarl is beyond me, but it is absolutely stunning. And there are just complicated, chaotic compositions. Get that on a t-shirt. Absolutely everywhere. And because this is kind of at the edge of the wood as well, a little bit of that, what light we have, is actually breaking through and bringing a little bit of three-dimensional structure to the image as well. A lot of the sort of scenes that I've been looking at that have been sort of more into the woodlands have been devoid of sort of light, any directional light, which has made things quite flat. Whereas here, hopefully, GoPro's picking that up. You can actually see where the light's hitting, and that's giving that nice three-dimensional view, but complicated. Now, down here, nothing against green, but I would love in the understory there to be a little pocket of colour in there, even just some buds or something like that there, just to separate from the gnarly branches and the ferns or the mosses. Goodness me, complicated city. We'll carry on looking to see whether we can pick something up though. All good learning, all good practice. Okay, so maybe I've found something. And it's actually linking the main subject, the gnarly old tree, and that little sort of bit of understory with the fallen bark that I was talking about before. And actually, I was mentioning the fact that I would like some colour in amongst the green. And coming around to this side of the tree, obviously there's a lot of leaf litter down there, which is actually interspersed between the green, which actually breaks up the uniformity of it. Portrait, using the fallen bark as hopefully a bit of a line into the tree. And then just on the left hand side of the frame, there's a little gap that takes you through to the very back, which is where you have a couple of other birches and things. And I think that maybe for me completes the image. I think if there was nothing back there or that gap was closed, I'm not sure it would work as well, my own opinion. But yeah, maybe it's working. But it's absolutely stunning. The other difficulty that I have is I don't have any spikes for this tripod, and so I'm having to kind of put it on to a 10-second timer and then run away into the distance and hope that it doesn't shake when it actually flicks the shutter. It's about a 1, not putting any polarizer or filters on, but it's still about a 1.5 second exposure time, which probably, given the fact it's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, gives you a bit of an insight into how dark and dank it is around here. That rain is moving in fast. But yeah, I'll throw this image up. Let me know what you think, especially the little nod in the back, the top left hand corner, that little gap seen through to the backstory. Right, well, that little copse of trees that I've mentioned a couple of times in this vlog, I'm now right on the edge of the woodland, focusing on it in a 16:9 format. Now, the light really has dissipated even in the last 10-15 minutes. I think that rain is really moving in fast. I had a vision when I first sort of saw the copse of trees this time around. I sort of thought to myself, well, there's not going to be a huge amount of dynamism in the image because of the lack of light. So how can I perhaps bring some to that, and perhaps with a longer exposure? Now, the wind isn't strong enough to be moving those trees, but it is strong enough to slightly move the grasses. Now, even a 25-second exposure, which who knows, given this spongy ground, whether it's even going to be sharp enough. It might. We got quite fortunate actually, because the wind did pick up a little bit. Obviously a pre-warning for the incoming rain. So whether or not it allowed enough movement to sort of bring a little bit of, say, dynamism to the actual frame itself. And of course, without any directional light, maybe those trees are blending in a little bit too much with the background. But one thing about this place is you need time. Time and time and time. I think people would come here on a day like today and just go completely discount it and probably never come back. I think this is the kind of place you need to be here for hours, days, weeks, repeated visits at all times of the year, because it is complicated, it is chaotic, but my goodness, it's beautiful. Right, I'll throw this image up, and then I might start to head back to the van. Maybe get a little crook in here again later in the vlog, and I've only wandered up, I don't know, 1k, 1.5k up the little path. As I say, you need time. Right, put up this image, let me know what you think, and we'll dander on. Well guys, with that rain starting to spit and my belly starting to rumble, I'm going to wander back down to the van. And you can actually stay, just FYI, if you're in a camper van or a motorhome, you can actually stay in Arundel as part of the Scottish Forestry Stay the Night campaign. So it's 10 quid a night, 6 till 10 AM I think, 6 PM till 10 AM. No services, but permitted to stay here. And there's another place you can stay as well, about 5k along the road as well, which is Long Loch Sonnert, I believe. We're not going to stay here, mainly because we have got, especially Nicola, has got some work to do. In fact, I've just had a ping on the phone about catching up with some articles and getting on with that as well. So we're actually going to go somewhere with a little bit better signal. But hopefully you've enjoyed these few little images, despite the lack of light here in Arundel. If you're ever in Ardnamurchan, then absolutely get yourself along here, and as I say, give yourself time. Hopefully in the next day or so we will get out into another little woodland somewhere and carry on wrestling with chaos, complexity. And did someone say cake? Oh, right. Well, for you guys, maybe only a couple of seconds, but for me, maybe a couple of days. But hopefully, catch up in a little bit for some more woodland images. I think I just heard a wild boar. Well guys, good morning again. Another day, another chaotic woodland. So obviously still on Ardnamurchan. We stayed down in Lochaline ferry port last night. About a 10-minute drive from that, up into this little stretch of single track road that has a lot of, again, that ancient oak woods. Now, the big problem we have with this particular one is, and maybe put in the comments what this is all about, but loads of like Hessian sacks and white sacks kicking around. I'm assuming collecting something, maybe collecting deadfall, maybe they lay them in below the trees so whenever the branches fall they're easier to pick up or something. I have no idea. But what it does mean is it rules out a lot of photographic opportunities because you've got all of these white sacks. But hey, who doesn't love a challenge, eh? So we'll go for a bit of a wander. If anything, it was supposed to be absolutely hosing it down by now, so we'll take that as a bonus. Right, let's wander and see what we can find, eh? I'm an absolute jackass. Tell me something I don't know, says a lot of people in the comments. It's been a bit of a stressful morning. I won't go into any details, but I've wandered up to the top of a hill. There wasn't a huge amount going on, but I started to look at kind of some more intimate details here, and maybe with a little bit of movement in the grasses, and then realised I'd forgotten my tripod. So now I'm going to have to wander all the way back down to the van to grab the tripod and then make a decision. Do I wander all the way back up here to make an image? Jackass. Hey, so we have the tripod and we have decided to come back and shoot an image here. Now, there are parts of the image that I really like and parts of the image that I think maybe feel a little bit forced. And the first thing that maybe feels a little bit forced is this white, sort of bleached white branch right in the foreground. It feels like it's kind of a, you know, I put it there just so it's pointing into the frame. However, the bits that I do really like is on the right hand side, there's another sort of gnarly old tree that in the background, there's still a tree down on the riverbank that has some lovely orange leaves, and that's really kind of showing through. And I really do love the effect the longer exposure is having on those grasses as well. So it's kind of a yin and yang type image, I guess. Some bits I like, some bits I think could work better, but it's in a portrait orientation. I've actually got a 4-stop ND filter on there, and I think it's about a 10-second exposure or something, just to give that little movement. Now I have also, I'm out at about 55mm, so I've actually focus stacked just to give me that wider sort of range. It does look as though it's losing a little bit of sharpness as it goes off into the distance, so I've just focus stacked just in case I want to kind of blend both of those in, but maybe the drop off in focus kind of works okay for the background. So anyway, I'll put this image up, and well, you've heard me say this once or twice before in this vlog, we'll shoot until the rain comes, I guess. So as I said, I was shooting a 16:9 format, and I still really liked the effect of that burnt orange tree in the background, but what I also really liked was the effect the long exposure was having on the grasses in the front of that white tree. So I've put myself into a square format, got myself slightly closer, and more importantly slightly lower down, which means the foreground grasses are having more of a sort of a visual effect on that tree, almost like flames burning up. So yeah, I think it works quite well in my eye anyway. And of course then the main sort of tree line here is just utter chaos, so it's just a case of positioning those. So, but yeah, not too bad. I shall put this shot up and let me know what you think. So it's utter chaos down here. Brought myself to the river's edge. I just don't think there would be an image just for the lack of light. But here there potentially would have been if there had been some light. You've got the river, you've got some still nice autumnal-ish colours hanging on, and then you've got little sort of tiny waterfall stream in the distance. But without any light, I just don't think so. Oh, for spots of rain as well. Actually, that feels like more than just a few spots. That's coming in hard now, so that might be the little morning session over. I'm only about a 15-minute walk back to the van, so it shouldn't be too bad. In fact, here we go. Oh, a little bit of protection down here, but not too much. Right, well, I'm going to wander back to the van. Hopefully we'll catch up in a little bit with more chaotic woodland. Well guys, I hope you've enjoyed these last couple of days exploring the incredible woodlands here in Ardnamurchan. They need time to invest, time to wander with and without the camera, but I've had an absolutely fantastic time doing just that. And so last week we were exploring the coasts of Ardnamurchan. This week we've been exploring the complicated, chaotic woodlands of Ardnamurchan. And next week, I think what we'll do is we'll just run around the place like a headless chicken, chasing the light. How does that sound? But until then, thanks a lot for following along. And until next week, once again, back in Ardnamurchan, chasing the light. Take care, guys. And as always, happy pixels. Bye-bye.